as much of the mad and macabre as they were to see that day.
Became a nightmare. I'm gonna do a walkthrough.
Over 1,300 pieces of evidence were collected from the crime scene.
Scratch marks along the wall.
There was no doubt something paranormal was going on.
And for that exact reason, I'll continue my research to drive away the darkness.
Welcome to ASAP Radio. This is Nicole Katsanis.
And this is Ben Robinson.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing really well. I've been enjoying this beautiful weather.
Mm-hmm.
It's been kind of a nice break from the norm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been really nice and sunny.
Yeah.
Thank you, Punxsutawney Phil.
Yes, thank you for bringing that early spring to us by seeing your shadow. Yeah, I was getting kind of worn thin with the rain, and I know we're going to have more, but still. It's nice to have that break and get some good sunshine in and get that vitamin D.
Mm-hmm. This California girl misses the sun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, your skin doesn't sparkle like mine does up here in the Pacific Northwest, full of
yet.
the vampires.
No. Even though this morning I went outside to go to work, and I opened the door, and there's like this bright thing in the sky, and I was like, I felt kind of like a vampire.
Yeah. You got to love that
Yeah.
when you get surprised by the big yellow spot in the sky.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Let's talk about some things that have been going on. We've been, still working through the analysis phase of the case that we hadn't been able to talk about in the past, but now we're able to because they've finally given us full permission to talk about them and basically waiving any kind of anonymity. So we're grateful for that, and we can now reveal that the case we've been working on is the Cedar Creek Grist Mill in Woodland, Washington. So that case is still underway. We're still trying to go over all the evidence, or not evidence,
Analysis.
just the footage and audio recordings and everything that we have. So that's one thing we've got going on. Now we're slowly, but surely trying to prepare for the Oregon Ghost Conference, which coming up here in April 1st. And
Isn't it the 2nd through the 4th?
No, it's April 1st through the 3rd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So at any rate,
April Fools. April Fools.
April Fools. Yeah.
And we got word that someone is going to be a speaker there.
Yeah, I'm really glad for it. I a little nervous too because it's going to probably be the biggest they've ever had. So, it's a little nerve-wracking. I've got a presentation I want to try to give a bit of a facelift to and add some more content and just tweak it some more, always improving it. But, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie.
You'll do fine.
I hope so.
I'll
I've
be
got
in the,
you there rooting
I'll be in the
me on.
audience, giving you a thumbs up.
That's always good.
Just
a
a
thumbs up always helps.
Just a thumbs up.
As long as it's not your middle finger.
That's not a thumb.
I know.
I had a weird transplant. I lose my thumb, I replace it with a middle finger.
Yeah, that would be rather weird.
Yep.
Let's see. What else do we got going on?
As far as paranormal research-wise?
Just anything on our front. I was trying to think what else we had going on.
Oh, God. We've just been dealing with life stuff.
Yeah.
Life stuff, family stuff, wedding stuff.
Lots of wedding
Lots
stuff.
of stuff.
Stuff.
Yep.
STUF. Stuff.
Right.
Somebody out there is going, what the hell?
Yeah,
this guy can't even spell
that
stuff.
made me cringe on the inside, but
I was going to do STOUGH because technically, phonetically, I could be right.
You could, but
It could be stow.
it could be, or yeah.
Could be stuff.
Stew.
Stu.
Anyway, we're not going to talk grammar and spelling and the funky language that is English, because I'll just go off on a tangent and we'll have a whole hour-long show of just me ranting.
Well, let's talk about our guest tonight. We don't have a whole lot else to talk about, so let's roll right into this bad boy.
All right.
Yeah. So tonight's guest is Kristen Luman. Kristen Luman is a paranormal researcher and hypnotherapist who's known for her roles on Ghost Mine as well as Ghost Hunters. She received her BA in psychology from Portland State University, focusing on paranormal psychology and human development. You can also find Kristen hosting at American Hypnosis Association seminars and leading classes in guiding imagery meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So, all of that being said, we're looking forward to having a good conversation with her.
Mm-hmm. And you've actually worked with her, right?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to work with her on a case over in Forest Grove, Oregon, Knights Hall. And that was kind of a fundraiser kind of deal. And it was a fun experience and good to be able to work with her. And she's, serious individual about what she does. And there was no goofing around when it came to, what she was there to do. So that was pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah. So don't believe just that because they're on TV that they're not also valid, genuine researchers. Sometimes they get the opportunity to showcase this kind of field in the shows. And in this case, she's also a genuine researcher outside of the TV Hollywood field.
Nice.
Yeah. So without further ado, I guess we will go ahead and bring her on.
All right.
All right. Welcome to ASEP Radio. This is Ben Robison.
And this is Nicole Katsanis.
So tonight we have with us Kristen Luman, and we wanted to extend a quick thank you to you for taking the time out of your schedule to sit down and chat with us.
Yes.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome to the show. So how have things been going for you?
Things have been going great, actually. I'm really focusing on my hypnotherapy career now that I'm not traveling as much, so I'm able to really focus on getting my office together and clients, and so that's nice.
Yeah.
To be able to take this time.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. I'm sure you're kind of liking that because it's a little bit more stable, especially when you're having to travel as much as you were.
Yes, and it was difficult because we would never know when we were going to get a day off or when we thought we were going to have a day off, and then something would happen and we'd have to rush up on the mountain.
Yeah.
And so it was very difficult for me to see clients at that time. I really couldn't. So when I'm traveling, it's almost impossible for me to be able to, do that other part of my life.
Yeah, I see you're definitely very active with your hypnotherapy because I follow you as well on Facebook, and I see your videos when they come out and all your posts and stuff. So it's good to see you keeping yourself very busy.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful, rewarding job, and I love to do it. So, and I'm fascinated by it, and I learn new things every day about it, and so continually, studying and researching and learning new theories about the subconscious mind. So it's a wonderful career to be a part of, especially, helping people. That's always pretty nice.
Yeah, that's definitely rewarding in its own, for sure. Mm-hmm. So one of the questions I usually like to roll right off the top with is, what is your genesis into the paranormal? What happened to you at one point in time in your life that, kind of shook your understanding of what was real and what potentially could have a supernatural, origin to it?
I wouldn't say really anything really shook me. I was a very imaginative child, very make-believe, all pretend, and my parents were gracious enough to let me always, explore my imagination. They never knew what I was going to be each day.
Sure.
And ghosts and spirits fascinated me as a child because I think it was the closest thing I thought to that was real life magic, that there is this other world that existed. And when I was younger, I loved to be scared. At my little grade school library, I checked out every single book on ghosts and ghost stories I could possibly get my hands on.
Nice.
I always had, whenever there was a slumber party, it was always playing light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Right.
Or we would, I would do past life regressions without even knowing what past life regressions were. I would, have the other little girls.
Wow, that's pretty advanced.
I know. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that there was some magic in the mind, and I thought it was just so fascinating. And so I would have, one of the little girls lay down on these pillows, and I would rub her temples and say, "Okay, now remember a time back in your life," or I'd try to get her, that's probably not very safe, but I'd try to get her possessed.
Oh, jeez.
I think we've all done that one.
Yeah. And we would have, seances. I was always having seances at every summer party. And I was just so fascinated with that world. I started the Ghost Club when I was in 5th grade, and I was the leader of the Ghost Club. And
oh, wow.
And we would investigate, and most of the stuff, it was, we were kids. So we always thought we were seeing or experiencing something. And
sure.
I had my best friend growing up, her father collected antiques, and they had this huge museum in the basement. It was beautiful, of all these different antiques, and he had an old Ouija board, which was amazing. And so we used that old Ouija board, and to the point where my mother had to, have a talk with me and said, "Okay, it's time to be evolved a little bit more in the, waking world."
Right.
And so then and then once I became a teenager, I kind of moved out of it a little bit, but I was always still dragging everybody to the cemeteries and sneaking out at night to go into that old house that's, around the block. And so I've always been.
So you've had a passion. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You've had your interest into this, and you just played it, that part throughout your childhood. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's my girlfriends from grade school. When I see them now, they're like, "I cannot believe you ended up doing this." Career, they're like, "It's amazing. You always were so, into this, and now you're able to go and travel and do it, and it's so cool." And I feel very grateful for that.
Yeah, and you grew up here locally in the Portland, Oregon area, is that right?
Yeah, I grew up in Oregon.
Okay.
I love it. I love work.
That's awesome. So
all that rash of child possessions in Oregon, we'll give you credit for that.
What would give me what?
I said we'll give you credit for that. Back in the day.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Exactly.
My little girlfriend's possessed.
There you go.
Right.
Very fun.
Yeah. So now, fast forward, obviously, sometime you ended up going to college and you studied psychology. Tell us a little bit about that and your interest in that and some of the side studies that you did as well with that.
So I became, I've always, like I said, I've always had this fascination with sort of magic and make-believe. And then as I started to understand, I took a small psych class in high school, just like a intro. And I just loved it. I thought it was amazing. I thought the mind itself is paranormal. There's so many mysteries about it that we still can't figure out and how we can do things and think
Absolutely.
the way we do. So I went into psychology, and I really was wanting to work with children in psychology. So I took a lot of human development courses, but they also offered paranormal psychology at PSU. And I took, and they had, I think, about 2 or 3 courses of different types of paranormal psychology. And I took, as much as I could get. And that was really fascinating for me because until then, I didn't know you could combine the two. I didn't know you can combine the fascination of how our mind works with also, this world of paranormal, this mysterious world and the mysterious mind, and stick them together.
Right.
That was, it was a wonderful class. I got to write my paper on near-death experiences, and it was really kind of ghost hunting 101 though, because I learned how to do that.
Yeah.
And I learned, the equipment, and it was really cool to have these different speakers come in and share their experiences. And it just, obviously already fueled my, love of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the paper that you did on the near-death experiences, was that because you've had one, or you were just interested in them?
I had a cousin who had when he was 3 or 4 years old, and his experience was really amazing. And it was like an experience I'd never heard before. Wow. And so, so I thought that would be really cool to kind of share with the class and write a report on it and actually research what's going on in the mind, what the scientific explanation could be and what the spiritual explanation could be. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of compare, contrast, and write a paper on it.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's always good when you have something personal to relate to when you're writing papers like that, and that you put a little bit extra thought and care into that kind of a project in itself. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
So, how much time after college went by before you got involved with Ghost Mine?
Oh, I'm not going to give away my age. Fast me.
Damn, she found me out.
I would say about 6 years.
Okay.
6 or 7 years.
So
I had only moved to California by then.
Okay.
I had already graduated in psychology, and I had already started my hypnotherapy practice, and that was one of the reasons why I think I know why they sought me out for the show.
Okay.
And why is that?
I already had known Patrick, but he let them know sort of how I come about it, and from a more psychological perspective of what the mind is manifesting, compared to that it's just, a paranormal experience.
Right.
And so they thought that would be a good combination for the show, because Patrick was a bit more of a believer than I am. Sure. And they thought it would be good to have sort of someone who's a bit more skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, having that dichotomy. Now, and I think that's amazing, because I think even with all the cases that we're working ourselves and have over the years, you find that there's more going on with the client's minds than there is with any supernatural phenomena. It's itself. I'm personally a believer, but at the same time, it's interesting, because the more you do this, the more you find that very little can't be explained, by some rationale and just some research and understanding of the psyche and how the mind is working at times, especially against the clients. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think I've shared the most with people to help calm their nerves is sleep paralysis.
Right.
Because a lot of people, it's the same sleep paralysis. I get emails all the time. I woke up I know I have something in my room. I woke up in the middle of the night with pressure on my chest or my throat. I couldn't move my body, and there was a demon hovering over me.
Right.
And, and I explain to them sleep paralysis, and I send them research on it and what exactly happens and what people have described. And it's almost the exact same description every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And and that's what is so wonderful. But it's also pretty amazing that the mind, because it has to have an answer for everything, it actually hallucinates a demon or an alien or something hovering over you. And I think that's pretty paranormal in itself. I mean, the mind will actually have create a visual hallucination to give an answer for you not being able to move the body.
Right.
And I mean, I just think that kind of stuff is so amazing. And so, you know, I hope that I'm helping people when I tell them this. I think some people kind of are just disappointed because, you know, they thought they had this really cool experience. And I'm like, well, it's still cool. You know, it's still mine. It's pretty, you know, amazing.
Well, I often say that we're, you know, as paranormal researchers, legitimate too, that I should note, we're often the poo-pooers.
I know.
You know, we're kind of totally squashing out their hopes of some kind of ghost encounter, and we're explaining, no, you know, this is, you know, due to these circumstances, and they're explainable and you know, they're known, you know, occurrences. So yeah, no, with sleep paralysis, I always can't remember, is it hypnagogic or hypnopompic, or is it both when that the sleep paralysis takes place?
I believe it's hypnagogic, but I'm not positive. You would have to check on that.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember myself. So, real quick, how did you get involved with Ghost Mind? Did they seek you out?
Well, they first contacted Patrick, and Patrick actually referred me.
Okay.
So it was more due to Patrick, but then we also had to all meet, and you know, I had to interview and find out, and I know there were some other people that they were thinking about going with, and Patrick and I actually got in an argument when we were all meeting together, and I think that's actually what sealed the deal, because we were talking about how we basically, you know, contact and interact with spirits, and he was saying how, you know, sometimes he bullies them and all this stuff, and I kind of looked at him, I'm like, why? And everyone kind of looked at me and like, well, what do you do, Kristen? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just nice. I mean, if I was gonna, you know, speak out from the dead, I don't know if I'd be speaking out if someone was kind of trying to rustle my feathers. I think I would, you know, if they were kind to me, I'd be kind back to them. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
it was just kind of funny, and I think right away they're like, okay, this, you know, this team might actually work together, you know, in a fun sort of way. And I had known Patrick before, and we really have like a great kind of brother and sister relationship where we can be like that with each other,
Right?
And disagree and come back together, and you know, we're still buddies, and we still really appreciate what the other one has to say, and we make each other think, and that's really great that we're both not on the same mindset, that we are able to kind of go back and forth and bounce back off each other, you know?
Yep.
I think
that's important.
Yeah, very good to have in a team. You've got to have somebody to kind of keep you in check, so you don't just kind of go like, yeah, this is what I believe. I do too. And you just get stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
That's what Nicole does for me. She's always keeping me in line and in check and making sure I'm not going too far out.
Well, I usually do that with the back of my hand, but
well, you know, whatever method works.
I couldn't get away with that with Patrick. I did it in my mind. I imagined doing that.
there you go.
Yeah. Yep. So, you know, the whole time you did the Ghost Mind thing, when you think back about it, what was your fondest memory?
That is such a tough question, because honestly, that was probably one of the most happiest, most just fun and exciting times of my life. Like, every day I was so excited to be a part of that project. And I was so lucky to be with such an awesome crew.
Yeah.
Everyone on that team were just amazing people. And we did start off a little rocky. But every single one of those guys, the hearts, they're the greatest hearts. They would, you know, after we were shooting for a while, came up and every single one apologized to me if they had hurt my feelings in the beginning. And it was just so sweet. I mean, there's just such good people.
They seem like the salt of the earth kind of guys.
They're completely the salt of the earth. They're just great people. And they all look out for each other, and once you're a part of their team, they all look out for you too. And it's,
right.
You know, it's a really nice, you feel safe there because of them. And I have to say that probably my fondest memories with them just in the relationships were the times that we would have campfires. And everyone was able to relax. We weren't really feeling that anxiousness from what's going on inside the mountain.
Right.
The guys were kind of off from, being on safety mode, and we got to get the gold, and they were able just to kind of relax. And one of the nights, I made them all s'mores.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
And it was cute because Graybeard got it all stuck in his beard.
Oh, no.
And I just had such a fun time with them. And that's one of my greatest memories, where every campfire, when we got to just sit back and relax and tell jokes. And they're really funny. All those guys are so funny. And so, I'd just be crying, laughing. And sometimes, we'd have to be reminded that we need to be a little bit more serious.
Right.
But so that was, and then an overall memory is really exposing the history of what happened with the immigrant workers.
Right.
And because I was so unaware of that tragic history. And even in the town of Sumter itself, there was still a lot of hush-hush where we would talk to some of the old townspeople about it, and they didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want us asking any questions about it. And it was very obvious that it was something that they were, wanted to let the past be buried.
Yeah.
And I understand that because they want to move on, but also I think it's important for people to understand our history.
Yep.
And what people went through just to live, just to survive.
Well, and we can't ignore the fact that some pretty nasty tragedies did take place, some pretty nasty acts against humans, So, yeah, I get it. They don't want to, drudge up bad memories, and they'd rather just sweep it under the rug. But like you said, the history is important all the way around, no matter how painful sometimes it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but that, sort of being on that hunt to open people's eyes, it opened my eyes. And I really, really was grateful to be a part of something like that.
No, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I have a question. In this field, there's many different ways that people like to investigate. What is your preferred method when you're out on an investigation?
Well, my preferred method, which sometimes is more difficult to do with camera crews, is to really spend as much time and as long as you possibly can as a location. And that's what I really loved about Ghost Mine, is that we were able to be there for 2 summers. Because my theory is, and in what I've researched and, during interviews and questioning people about who've had paranormal experiences that seem to be legit, unexplainable paranormal experiences, that it's usually not the person that immediately gets the job, but, immediately sees something when they start working in an old office, or right when they move in, they start experiencing strange happenings in their home.
Right.
It's usually after they've been there for a little bit. And my belief is that, just because someone has passed on doesn't mean they're still not human,
Right.
And doesn't mean they still don't have human qualities, or what we put out is energy.
Yeah.
And just like we detect people that we don't like, we don't understand. We just know, I don't really like that person. I get a weird energy around them. And we're more open to those we feel comfortable around, where we like their energy. We don't mind being around it. And
Yep.
I feel that that's the same way with spirits, that if they're going to make themselves known, it's going to be with someone that they feel most comfortable with.
Right.
Sure.
Or someone who's oftentimes there. So they're used to their energy. They're used to their presence. And so I find that you do have a better chance of seeing something, catching evidence, the longer you can be in an area. Because if you just do a quick investigation in and out in 2 hours, oftentimes you're not going to be getting
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's actually really great, because that's kind of in line with what Ben and I have been trying to do more with our investigations. We're not going in like, what's your name? Tell me.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, asking the questions that are the typical and trying to get responses, because I'm in the same boat as you. Like, if someone just comes into my house and starts throwing questions at me, I'm going to be like, whoa, you know, and back off. But if we try and go in and just have conversations that might be interesting for spirits, you know, to kind of want to come and join, because that's how we would interact with living people. Is, you know, like if we're going into someone's house, we want to be welcoming and warm and open, so that dialogue will happen rather than just forcing it.
Yeah, and I think that's really the best way to go about it, and I think you're going to collect the most evidence doing it that way. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this in your investigations, but a lot of times when I'll get an EVP, it's not necessarily right after my question. It's when I just leave it on and I'm starting to talk about something else I'm not even talking, trying to contact the spirit. I'm just on talking to, you know, whoever's there with me in the room. And then when I go back and listen to it, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know. Yeah. And sometimes it's not even in reference to a question I asked. There's just, you know, saying something.
Right.
And so I think there's something to be said about that too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. And that's like Nicole was saying, we try to get there and acclimate, you know, and try to settle in and carry on almost in the same fashion that our clients would be when they're having the experiences. It's not that we won't ask some questions, but most of the time, well, a good example would be, you know, talking about the location and maybe just kind of saying things like, you know, I wonder if, you know, this was built this way, or I wonder, you know, who used to live here and things like that. It's not a direct question, but it also kind of entices them to want to maybe interact with you on a more, you know, friendly level. So
what I've been using too, that I find to be that I just started using actually, and it seems to be a great technique, is playing music.
Yep.
As music seems to really bring about some activity, and especially, when think about it, dementia patients, people who suffer from dementia, often will get stuck on a song, or they'll always know a song. So they'll come alive when they hear a song they like, and they'll be able to sing along with it. Something about the brain and music sticks.
Right.
And they found that with people that suffer from dementia and Alzheimer's, that they remember songs. And so I use that now in my investigations in certain places, and I try to play, if I can, the same, you know, type of music in the era that they lived.
Sure, yeah.
And I've gotten some positive responses from that. So that's another
awesome.
great technique. Yeah.
And how often do you know, or how a better way to put it is, how long duration-wise do you normally play that music? Do you just do like a whole song, or do you just play part of it?
I usually try to play for a while.
Okay.
To kind of get, you know, it in the atmosphere, and, you know, everyone's settling down and comfortable and enjoying the music, you know. So I don't play little snippets. Sure. I usually try to play the whole entire song.
Okay. Cool. Well, what we'll do real quick is we're going to take a quick break in the middle of the show here, which is kind of amazing because I'm looking at the time and I'm already thinking, wow, we've already blew through half the show. But we'll take a quick 5-10 minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll pick up from there. So stay tuned, everybody.
Welcome back to ASAP Radio. This is Nicole Katsanis.
And Ben Robison.
So we have Miss Kristen Luman with us tonight, and we will get right back to that awesome interview. But first, we want to give a shout out to Mike Smith over at the InfoSub. You can check him out at infosub.listentomyradio.com, and you can find him on Facebook at facebook.com/theinfosub. So
Yes,
thank you,
so
Mike.
thank you, Mike.
All right, Miss Kristen.
Yes,
So you've done Ghost Mine,
I did Ghost Night.
and you were also on Ghost Hunters, right?
Yes, and I got to be make a guest appearance on Ghost Hunters.
Awesome. Was how many episodes?
Well, we did 4 investigations, but 3 episodes.
3 episodes. Okay, nice. And I'm sure working with them, you've learned a lot. Do you know anything that you'd want to share with us that you might have learned from just working with that team and that show?
It was different because of, I'm used to just working with one team member and, the minors when it comes to working on more of a production, type of investigation.
Right.
And it was different because how I'm used to is that we all sort of go in together and we're all, unless it's a big group that I'm going with, on my extra time, usually we don't really pair off. And in that setting, they pair off a lot,
Right.
which I thought was really interesting because I was asking them, because, my whole energy theory, do you find that when I was asking Tango, I'm like, do you find that when you move from one person to the next, do you find that you have more experiences with some team members more so than you do with others? And he said, yeah. And I thought that was really interesting to, the dynamics of actually who you're working with
Yep.
Right.
also changes the energy and how some of the guys felt like working with some people, they had different obvious experiences than they did with others. I really enjoyed working with all of them. It was a really cool experience, and especially because, they really sort of put paranormal investigating on the map. And so you're meeting the guys who, sort of paved the way for you to be able to do this.
Right.
Or make it more normal, you
Yeah.
know?
Right. Socially acceptable. Yeah.
Socially acceptable. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, it was like the old British shows. I remember I gagged through those shows because they were just so horrible as I was growing up. And then when Ghost Hunters came around, you were like, oh, now here we go. Here's somebody that's legitimately doing it, and they have this structure to, how they do everything, and there's taking a science-based, approach and yada, yada, yada. So,
Which, they get a lot of complaints because people are, it's not active enough, or you're not getting enough. But they're being honest.
Right.
It's very real. You don't usually get a lot of evidence.
no.
And so I think I appreciate them for sticking to that. And they do go about it very scientifically and very professionally. And it was really great to also work with the different team members and see how they go about it. Everybody has their own technique, and it was cool to work one-on-one with almost each team member and see what their sort of protocol is.
Right.
And the steps that they take.
That's
Because
cool.
you find if you do this often enough, you sort of have you kind of, without even knowing it, sort of have a routine down that you do. You do this first, then you do that second, and then, And so working with each team member and hearing their stories and their theories, and that was just really cool to be able to experience that. And I worked a lot with KJ, and I really loved how he brought in the names of who we were trying to contact and the history about each of those people in a way that he talked to them like he would just having a conversation with anybody.
Yeah. I remember liking that a lot.
Yeah, I really liked how he did that. And I sort of done that, but not to that extent. And so I learned from him in that way. Because I really like that technique. I like how he did that. And I find that also yields more positive evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, you're relating to them in a friendly way without any kind of confrontation. It doesn't come across almost like an interrogation. It just very, docile and comforting, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I got from it too. And so I sort of tried to now incorporate that more into how I go about doing things.
That's awesome. So do you think that we may be seeing you again on Ghost Hunters at all?
Well, because they're on the East Coast, I don't think that you will.
Okay.
But that's not to say that never.
Okay. Right.
Not probably any time in the future.
Right.
But that's not to say that I won't, meet up with them again.
Mm-hmm. Never say never.
Never say never. Yeah.
Well, I have kind of a more girly question, being a woman in this field. When I first got into it, I kind of viewed it as more like, oh, there's these guys. It's all guys, and they're, badass with matching T-shirts and pounding on walls, wanting the demons to come out. And then, I get into it, and I'm realizing there are quite a few women in this field, and we're starting to make a name for ourselves in hopefully a positive way. So how do you feel about being a woman in this field? Like, have you ever felt that you were stereotyped or had any setbacks? Or do you feel like you've been pretty welcomed and taken legitimately?
I think in the beginning I have to prove myself more.
Okay.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like proving myself,
Mm-hmm.
so that's fine with me. But I think, yes, because I am, girly.
Mm-hmm.
I like to do my hair. I wear a bit of makeup.
Yep.
I feel like, and you get criticized for that. A lot of people say I don't look like a paranormal investigator. I'm like, what am I supposed to look like?
Yeah. What is the
Right.
protocol? What's the outfit and the look?
What am I supposed to look like? And I think too, because people have to remember that my 9-to-5 job is I'm a therapist in an office wearing a suit.
Right.
And so it's just it's sometimes hard to think that these people who go out and do these paranormal investigations have this other life that they most of them do have a day job that they do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's what I that's what I had a hard time with, what my look was and how I was supposed to look.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really difficult for me. And being on the mountain and, my mother asking me after she watched the show, did you not have a hairbrush while you
Oh.
No.
were you not able to brush your hair?
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. I mean, she said a lot of nice things too. But moms would say something like that.
Yeah.
So, but so that's been somewhat difficult for me as well, and the same, like I said before, sort of proving myself and saying, I have this background. I do have education in this. I did basically take Ghost Hunting 101 and paranormal psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, but then again, like I said, I don't mind having to sort of, drop the big words or, let them know that I have experience and this is what I've experienced and this is what I've learned and educated myself in. So it's kind of a challenge and I'm up for it.
That's good.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it makes it okay.
Good.
Well-
You'd be like, I'm a pretty face, but I also know my stuff.
Right. And
You're a
to
double
add
threat.
to add to that too, it's funny because you bring up a good point, and this could ring true for fair amount of people out in the field, is that there is this I guess almost like expected look of what a paranormal investigator or a ghost hunter should look like. And I'm always kind of like, well, where's the poster child, so that way we have an idea of what we should be looking like. But, I think you did the right thing. You're always staying true to yourself, and that's what I do, and I don't allow for myself to be, to change the way I am or who I am just so I fit in with what, should be expected, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's important because you know what? Then you're not authentic.
Yeah.
And that comes across. People can tell.
Exactly.
And they know when you're not authentic. And I think it's always important to keep, who you are. And I think, and I actually had a Playboy playmate come up to me and was like, I love Ghost Mine,
That's awesome.
It reaches out to all types of people,
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and you never know. I was in church and someone came up to me and was like, I love Ghost Mine, And so you never know. And I think it's good to have a variety of investigators. And I think a lot of people love this type of work in this world and are fascinated and want to explore and discover it, no matter what they do for a living. People are really interested in it. Everybody's interested in the afterlife. Does it exist? Does it not exist?
Right.
So many people would like to investigate and explore. And so I think I think more people are interested in than we think, I think a lot of people are really fascinated by the shows and from all walks of life.
Yep.
We kind of sometimes pigeonhole what paranormal investigating or paranormal investigators are supposed to be.
Exactly. And I think it's nice to have a variety of looks and everything, because you're going to have the people who are like, oh, no, I don't believe in that, but then like closet watch it. Because, I don't want to be associated with those people, but I love it,
But I love it.
Yeah. But I also think it's good for kids growing up now. Like I have a young daughter and Ben does too. And for them to see no, you can be like a normal girly girl and still want to go to cemeteries, or you still want to go get dirty and see what you can find.
Yeah.
So
and that's what, and that's what's the big thing. I think for Ghost Mine, I think when I got up there, a lot of the guys were like, what is this going to be like? I didn't complain about a thing because I knew that they were like waiting to see if it was going to be the prima donna. And I grew up with an older brother and all boys cousins, and I rode dirt bikes, and they all had farms, and I grew up on the farms, and so I'm able to balance it, which saved my tush on being up there on the mountain with the guys. It really did. But I had a great time. I loved it. I had a great time, and I loved being in the dirt with everybody else. And
that's awesome.
That's good. I like that.
And I think it showed naturally too. It wasn't like when I watched the show, I was like, yeah, you could tell Kristen didn't like doing that. It was, you were in there, you were doing it, and it wasn't like a forced thing for you,
Except in some of those scenes where I'm stuck in the middle of the earth in the mine. That was a hard one because I'm afraid of small places.
Right.
And so that was really difficult for me to, I used self-hypnosis actually to be able to go in and expose myself to that. And there were some times when we were deep in that earth and the mountain was moving, it shifts, you hear it.
Wow.
And it took all of my courage to not get the heck out of there.
Yeah.
Well, you pulled it off well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's some scenes where my mom was watching. She's like, "You can see the terror in your face."
Only a mom would know that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you kind of lead me into something else I was going to ask later, but I'll do it now. You said you had to do some self-hypnosis just to kind of get you through stuff. Is there any other role that your hypnosis plays in paranormal research, or do you kind of keep them separate?
No, I with hypnosis, hypnosis is all the study of the subconscious mind. And that's where pretty much all of us comes from. We use 88% of our subconscious mind compared to the 12% of our conscious mind. And so understanding the subconscious mind, I also understand fear and what chemicals that are released in the body because of fear and what that can create, what our mind can manifest from that. The subconscious mind is sort of our mothership.
Right.
That's our control room, basically. And so understanding the subconscious mind helps me understand why somebody may be having a paranormal experience because of their experiences from their past, what triggers their fear, even somebody who has a drop in blood sugar or spike, that affects how we feel, whether we feel like we're being watched or when we have a panic attack. Some people equate having a panic attack with a paranormal experience when in actuality it could be that they just had a sugar spike. And that created the panic attack. And what our mind does is it tries to associate what's going on around us with what we're feeling inside, and therefore it makes the assumption that that's why it's, you're having a panic attack. And so being able to understand this has really helped me also work with those who have the paranormal witnesses who have witnessed and experienced these paranormal events, and sort of being able to question them in a way to understand where they were coming from at the time that they experienced it, something paranormal.
Which I think is very, very vital. I mean, you don't see it a lot, or enough, I should say, in the field, applying this kind of approach and mentality. And I think we'd have a lot less groups out there with what they think is legitimate, supernatural occurrences, and more of these explainable traits that come along with the way the brain works and the way the body works, together, and creates these false positives of sorts.
Completely. And understanding that has helped. And also understanding self-fulfilling prophecy from the subconscious mind. When we believe something enough, we actually manifest it physically without even being aware that we're doing it. And what I've studied up on poltergeists, and even having clients that may have felt that they've experienced a poltergeist. And, most people think poltergeist is a ghost or a demon, when in actuality, it's the paranormal scientific term for it, or thought of it, is that it's your subconscious mind being repressed and coming out in this other way because of the repression.
Right.
And this happens a lot with teenage girls. And it's really interesting in the studies that I've done is that when they think they've experienced this entity in their house and, it caused havoc on their family, I ask them, what age were you at? And most every time they were teenagers. And most every time, which is really interesting, whatever parent they favored the most had the least interaction or the least negative interaction with that entity.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So there's a correlation there. There's something to be said for that.
Absolutely.
And so there's, and I'm not saying I fully buy into this poltergeist theory that it's coming from the repression of a teenage girl. But, that's still, it's a really fascinating theory.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. That's why I love being able to combine the two, because both are, pretty paranormal. If the mind's doing that, that's great. Lack of a better word, it's crazy.
Right.
It's pretty awesome.
Hell, for that matter, the title itself, The Oppression of a Teenage Girl, would make a great book.
There you go.
I'm sure that would be a very colorful book in its own. But yeah, I've read about that as well as the phenomena, and it's interesting because you do see these traits with cases where there is believed to be a poltergeist phenomena taking place. And yet it's our body, our mind, and everything, almost like, for lack of a better way to do it, burping out this energy in a different way, because, as you put it, it's suppressed and it's not able to do what it normally is.
And that's how we have, and I study psychosomatic disorders or syndromes in the body, where when we do feel repressed in a certain area, let's say how we're at work and we don't feel like we are able to speak up enough, or in our relationship, we don't feel like we're able to speak up enough. All of a sudden, the person starts clenching in their sleep, bruxism, or they start getting sore throats because the body starts to represent physically what they're feeling mentally. And And I just think that's pretty amazing.
That
I
is.
think so too. That's why we have, some experiments we want to do. And have you ever thought of doing some experiments to see kind of what the human mind is capable of, or being part of one?
I've only in my own research of what I've experienced with people, but I've never done like a full controlled experiment with it in like a field study sort of thing. That's what you're talking about, like trying to see if I can get somebody to move an object with their mind, or telepathic. I've never really done those sort of experiments, but I think that's awesome. If you guys are going to do it, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I just think someone with kind of your knowledge and background would be amazing to have on something like that, just because you kind of know how the inner workings go and how people react to it, and it'd be a good piece.
Yeah, maybe down the road, maybe if you're in the area and we're working on something like that, we can maybe bring you in, help consult on it, and work with us on it. That would be a lot of fun.
And the cool thing is even understanding when people tell stories about their paranormal experiences, when people are telling a story from memory, their eyes look one way, and if they're making something up, they look another way.
Right.
Yeah.
Knowing these kind of things are really cool to be able to have, as a tool as you're doing this research, not to put on, anybody on the spot who I'm interviewing, but, picking up on body movements and how they express themselves also tells you a great deal about why they may have had an experience.
Yeah, no, that's very valid, because when I first came on with Ben, my first thing I did is I researched body language. Because I was like, if I'm going into these investigations, I want to be able to have more knowledge of, people have tells, and it's pretty basic ones, like as you said, what way they look and what way they kind of lean their head, if they're making it up or really recalling it. So I think that's really good for everybody who goes out on any kind of research to have that just in their little back pocket.
Yeah, it's good to know.
Yeah, definitely good to know. So I have a question.
Okay.
When it comes to, reading, I assume that you enjoy researching about paranormal research. Is there a book or a favorite read that you would recommend to folks out there?
Well, to keep sort of up to date with it all, I go to the ASAP website. And that is the Association for Scientific Study of sort of abnormalities.
Right.
Abnormal phenomena. And I think that that's a wonderful, wonderful website to check out to find psychological and scientific answers for paranormal experiences.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's always good for people to have some kind of resource to go to. And I always like to find out what my colleagues and other folks are reading or researching as well, because, I'm a student and always will be in this field. And I appreciate seeing the different approaches, the different thought processes, and just the interests that folks have for this, field of research.
Yeah, and the more you can get your hands on, the more you understand it, and the better investigator you're going to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you'll be able to sort of do the checklist of it. Can't be that, can't be that, can't be that, can't be that. Okay, maybe now we have something unexplainable. Now we got something here,
Right.
But it's important to be able to understand the environmental factors, the psychological factors, the physiological factors.
Yep.
Get rid of everything else that possibly could be, before you do a paranormal sort of assumption.
Right. Exactly. So tell us, what do you got going on? Any new projects that you've been working on, or anything coming up that you'll be doing?
Well, Patrick and I recently did Behind the Screams, and that was a really cool show where we actually we didn't do any investigations, but we got to sit back and sort of give our critique on these awesome stories that were turned into blockbuster hits.
That's right.
And we did it on The Exorcist, and I want to say, the one that just came out with the girls, and
The Conjuring.
The Conjuring. Thank you so much.
Yep.
The Conjuring and Fire in the Sky.
Yeah.
And so that was really awesome to be able to kind of, look into those stories and also explain what the people who were involved, the paranormal witnesses or the people who experienced these phenomena might have been experiencing mentally, and sort of, and why this might have come about. And we're hoping that we're going to have a season 2. The show did really well, so we're hoping that we'll get a season 2, but that's still kind of, up in the air. And then there are some other things that are coming about, which reunions will be made.
Ooh, good. I like it.
Yeah, so we're really excited about that. But
that's exciting.
Yeah.
Where would
the thing is with the reunions, everyone will be able to kind of do what they're good at.
Yeah, definitely. Where would folks be able to find the Behind the Screams?
Reels channel.
Yes.
And the Reels channel, it's on certain cable
Networks.
packages.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. Some people get it and some people don't.
I see.
And the great thing was, it was so funny. My mom was telling me about this new show that my dad and her got into, and she was describing it to me, and I'm like, Mother, that's the show.
Oh, that's funny.
Huh. That's funny.
But they did part of it. They did half of it was real life serial killers that were turned into real life stories of serial killers that were turned into big movies.
Ah.
And they did paranormal events that were turned. So I was in the last half of the show, the last 3 episodes, and there were 3 episodes before Patrick's and my episodes. And so, but it was funny when she was describing it to me, and I'm like, you silly.
That's funny.
That's the show.
I'm a part of that, Mom.
For that, but it was nice to know that she liked it, without me being on it.
Right. Exactly.
Knowing that I was on it.
Right. That's funny.
Well, we're reaching the end of the show. I wanted to give you an opportunity to maybe give any kind of, plugs for your hypnotherapy, ways people can contact you, the typical shameless plugs.
The shameless plug.
Yes.
I'll take it. So if anybody has any questions about hypnosis, how it works with the mind and the subconscious mind, and how it can help you, it is really one of, and I obviously have a biased opinion, but it is the best therapies. Now that we're understanding the workings of the mind and how much we use the subconscious mind, it is a very simple and effective type of therapy that works fairly quickly, because you get down to the root of the issue pretty fast in hypnosis.
Right.
And it's just being in a very suggestible state. You're very relaxed, and it's a wonderful way to work out any sort of behavioral trouble that you may be experiencing. And you can go ahead and find me at just my name, www.kristenluman.com.
Okay.
And reach out to me and contact me there. I also have a bunch of videos on there that you can kind of experience what hypnosis is like. And get an idea, and I explain exactly what happens in hypnosis for you to also, feel comfortable in it.
Nice. Are you able to work with clients like over the phone or Skype?
I see most of my clients actually on Skype, because a lot of people have reached out to me from seeing me on the shows. So most of my clients are actually on Skype.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. You never have to leave your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, the comforts of your own home.
Yeah. Pretty nice.
Okay.
Very nice.
And then you have a Facebook page for that as well?
I have a Facebook, just again, my name, Kristen Luman. I also have, I have 2 Facebook pages, that where I focus more on my hypnotherapy, and on the other Facebook page, I focus more on my parapsychology sort of research.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can't thank you enough. This has been an absolutely not only entertaining but
Very informative.
You know, yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and I know you're a very busy person, so we're very grateful for the time that you've been able to share with us.
Yes, thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys asking me. Thank you.
Not a
And
problem.
I had a great time with you guys in Portland, so it was nice to be able to see you again, and hopefully we can all do something when I'm in town.
That would be really fun. That would be a good time. So we'll let you go for the night, and we'll hopefully maybe have you on later on down the road.
Yeah.
And thank you again for being on the show.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I thought that went really well. How do you feel it went?
I really did enjoy it. Not only is she just really knowledgeable, but I think she's one of those kind of people that is very personable. And I've never had any reason to think she wouldn't be personable, but it's just, she's just one of those down to earth kind of people.
Yeah.
And knows her stuff very well. So
I really like a lot of the things we learned tonight, but what really struck me is how she likes going into investigations and spending the time there and trying to be personable with not just the living people there, but who they're trying to contact.
yeah,
And I think that aligns very well with what we've been trying to do. And it just shows that, you know, she's thinking and she's thoughtful and just a sweet person.
yeah. The one thing she talked about that I wish we could have expanded more on, and again, we have an opportunity down the road to do that with her, but when she talked about NDEs, near-death experiences, I think that's a very fascinating topic in itself, but I have a feeling that her spin on it, her background with hypnotherapy and parapsychology and, you know, just... you know, the human development end of things would be a really fascinating conversation itself.
Definitely, yeah. So, you know, we have even more reason to have her back. We can focus on that next time if she'd be willing to. And just since she has the more background on it, that'd be cool to learn about.
Yeah, it definitely would be.
But I just want to again say thank you to Kristen for taking time out of her evening to spend with us and talk with us and really, you know, teach us some stuff tonight, and hopefully our listeners walk away with a lot more knowledge than they came with. And, you know, if you are ever interested in any kind of hypnosis or hypnotherapy, definitely get in contact with her. She, on her website, you can see she does a whole array of ailments, or I don't know what you want to call them, but things to work on.
Yeah.
She is your gal.
She is your gal, for sure. She's a great person.
Yes.
So, let's see here. We don't have a whole lot else to chat about. I mean, we obviously spoke about in the beginning of the show about OGC, which, you know, we've got plenty of work on our hands there.
Well, there is one thing that we were going to talk about, and we kind of forgot, but I'll bring it up now if you'd like to talk
please.
about it. You, Mister, want to talk about the Ghost Arc.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I guess this is a good spot to talk about it, because most people are going to tune it out. But no, so one thing I've been reading a lot about is, you know, especially because I'm into the tech gadget end of things, there's this Ghost Arc company out there, and the Ghost Arc device that they've created is getting a lot of publicity right now. But the problem is it's not good publicity. There's a lot of talk about how the company is not upholding their end of the standards of the equipment that they pretty much marketed to people. There's devices showing up that aren't working, that the knobs and stuff like that aren't lining up. There's just a plethora of different issues that are coming out of it. And just the first week, people are receiving these. There's YouTube videos up about it. I watched one today of a guy opening up 2 of them. So this dude dumped hundreds of dollars on this device, and he said it's garbage.
That's really sad because there was a lot of hype
Man.
A lot of hype about this. People were pre-ordering these, and everyone was talking about them. So excited. This is like end all be all, great thing. Everyone must have it. And now they're coming out of the box like a piece of crap.
Yeah. And, if this company is worth their salt at all, they're going to make right by this and
especially because they're not cheap.
No, they're not. But we'll see.
So hopefully this is just one of those fluke things. Send them back and we got you new ones.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Because the theory behind them, cool.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the equipment themselves is got a mixture of different technologies into one device, so that way, like you kind of put it, the end-all be-all, not that it's really able to do everything, but it's got a whole bunch of different things that they claim it can do, and I don't think anybody's really getting a device that can do anything. So that's pretty disconcerting. Yeah, very much so.
Well, hopefully, it all gets fixed and everyone who's ordered them will get something close to what they were expecting, if not exactly, but...
So consider this your PSA.
Yes.
Because just be careful, I mean, trying to keep up with the Joneses and buying all that equipment that's coming out left and right doesn't mean you're on top of the game. Sometimes you fall victim to fraud and or just shoddy design stuff.
Well, it's like anything, buying the first model car, there's always the kinks they have to work out. So it sometimes behooves you to wait a year or two to get an old, one of the models after they've made some upgrades. But, a lot of people are kind of wanting to get it now, and I understand that too. So
want to be the first to have it, and try it out, and experiment.
And then put out this is what it can do and this is what it can't do, and then
capture the most phenomenal piece of evidence with it.
Unfortunately, we're not quite there yet with this, but hopefully it will be soon.
Yep. So beware, folks. Just beware. Be careful out there, and make sure you do your research and try to be a little patient.
Yes.
All right. Well, you guys have a great night. Thank you for tuning in to ASAP Radio, and stay tuned for more episodes with great guests. Have a great night.
Good night.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
There are people who have reported experiencing the same things that we have been experiencing.
I hear the brush popping and stuff. Oh, there he goes. Jesus.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.